Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My grandpa asked, "Son, why'd you show up in an Uber? Where's that Mercedes C63? We bought you." Before I could answer, Mom smiled and said, "Oh, that belongs to his sister now." What Grandpa did next made me respect him forever. Hey, Reddit, grab whatever you're drinking because this one's a ride. My family treated me like a walking ATM for years, and it took showing up to my grandpa's house in an Uber instead of the Mercedes he bought me to finally make everything explode. Spoiler alert, Grandpa came through like an absolute legend. I'm Colin, 26 years old, and I guess you could call me the family fixer, the invisible son, the guy everyone calls when they need something, but forgets exists when it's time to celebrate anything. I run a small custom ornament business out of a rented garage space in Phoenix. Hand-painted Christmas decorations, wedding ornaments, memorial pieces, tiny replicas of people's houses with the right number of windows and the correct shingle color. It's detailed work. My hands permanently smell like paint thinner and lacquer. I've got a magnifying lamp, about 40 different sized brushes, and calluses on my fingertips from handling glass bulbs all day. People think ornament painting is some cute hobby, but it's legitimate craftsmanship. I spend hours getting the details right on a 2-inch ceramic house, making sure the wreaths are proportional and the snow looks like actual snow instead of lumpy white paint. The business started when I was 19, working a seasonal job packing craft kits at a warehouse for $9 an hour. 40 hours a week of bubble wrap and tape guns and cardboard dust in my lungs. First real paycheck, I bought a used airbrush with a temperamental trigger from some guy on Craigslist who met me in a grocery store parking lot at dusk. Paid him $200 cash for equipment that would have cost $800 new. Also grabbed a box of misprinted glass bulbs cheap from a party store going out of business. The kind where everything's marked 70% off and the owner looks like he's watching his dreams dissolve in real time. Taught myself everything from videos and forums. Spent months practicing on cheap practice bulbs, learning how to control the airbrush trigger pressure, how to thin paint to the right consistency, how to keep my hands steady enough that the lines didn't wobble. Ruined probably 300 ornaments before I made one worth selling. That first Christmas, I set up a folding table outside a grocery store with a handwritten sign and froze my face off painting custom ornaments. This was Phoenix in December, which meant it was only 60 degrees, but when you're sitting still for 8 hours, the cold gets into your bones. Teachers buying class gifts, couples wanting tiny versions of their first house, parents ordering their kids' names in fancy script with little snowflakes around the letters. I charged $15 per ornament and felt guilty about it, like I was overcharging for something that took me an hour to paint. I remember every single customer from that first season because they were the ones who saw potential in some kid with paint-stained fingers doing careful work in the cold. Mrs. Patterson, a third-grade teacher who ordered 24 snowman ornaments for her class. The Johnsons, who wanted a replica of the house they'd just bought. A guy named Frank who ordered one with his late wife's name and the year she passed, and cried when he picked it up because I'd gotten the details right. By 21, I had regular clients. I was pulling in decent money during the holidays and doing custom orders year-round. Weddings, graduations, memorials, baby announcements. If you could paint it on a 3-inch ornament, I could make it happen. That's when Grandpa Howard decided I needed reliable transportation. Grandpa's old-school practical. 78 years old, retired electrician, who spent 50 years pulling wire through walls and fixing breaker boxes, built his entire life on the principle that you take care of your tools and your tools take care of you. He showed up at my garage one afternoon in March, driving his old Ford truck with the toolbox still mounted in the bed, and said we were going car shopping. I thought he meant helping me find something affordable in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. Maybe co-signing a loan so I could get decent interest rates. Nope. We drove to a Mercedes dealership on the north side, and he walked straight past the showroom with all the brand new models gleaming under the lights. Went directly to the used section where the previous lease returns lived. Found this 5-year-old C63 with 47,000 miles. Silver exterior with black leather interior. Sitting between a boring sedan and an SUV with wood paneling. The sales guy saw an old man in work boots and a kid in paint-stained jeans and probably thought we were lost. The guy started his pitch about luxury features and performance specs, talking about the AMG engine and the 0 to 60 time like we were there to race it. But Grandpa cut him off with this hand gesture that meant stop talking. "Does it run reliably?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Fully inspected. Clean. Does it have room for equipment in the trunk?" The sales guy looked confused. It's got decent trunk space for a sedan, yes. Maintenance history clean? No accidents? No funny business with the title? Clean Carfax, one previous owner. All service done at the dealership. 3 yeses later, Grandpa asked to see the maintenance records. Spent 20 minutes reading through them like they were a mystery novel, checking service dates and making sure the previous owner hadn't skipped oil changes or ignored warning lights. Then he test drove it himself, took it on the highway, listened to the engine, checked the brakes in an empty parking lot. When we got back to the dealership, he didn't negotiate, just asked the price, pulled out his checkbook from the credit union, and wrote a check for the whole thing. $28,000. Cash deal, no financing, no games. The sales guy looked like he'd won the lottery, and also couldn't quite believe what just happened. Grandpa handed me the keys right there in the parking lot, with this matter-of-fact pride that meant more than any graduation speech could have. A craftsman needs reliable wheels, he said. This isn't for show. This is for work. You take care of it, it'll take care of you. Mom showed up for the photo op. Big smile, arm around my shoulder, posted it on social media talking about how proud she was. That smile should have been my warning sign. Mom doesn't celebrate things she can't somehow leverage into benefiting the family. By family, I mean my sister. My sister Kelsey is 22, charismatic, photogenic, in that way that makes phones love her face, and what Mom calls front-of-house material. Translation: she's good at talking to people and looking put together for cameras. Kelsey's whole life is her social media presence. She's got about 85,000 followers across platforms, which sounds impressive until you realize that's about 60,000 on TikTok, 20,000 on Instagram, and 5,000 random followers on Twitter who probably forgot they followed her. She posts lifestyle content 5 to 7 times a day. Morning routines that start at 9 a.m. because she doesn't actually wake up early. What I eat in a day videos featuring acai bowls she makes once for content, then orders Chipotle. Closet organization content for a wardrobe funded entirely by credit cards. Apartment tours of our parents' house where she lives rent-free but pretends it's her own place. She does brand partnerships for yoga pants and meal prep containers and sustainable water bottles. The yoga pants company sent her 2 free pairs in exchange for 3 posts. The meal prep containers were a $60 Amazon purchase she wrote off as a business expense on Mom's credit card. The sustainable water bottles were part of an ambassador program that paid her $50 and a discount code that 3 people used. In high school, she got a free pair of leggings for doing a brand shout-out, and you would have thought she'd discovered cold fusion or solved world hunger. She posted about it for 3 weeks straight. The beginning of her empire. Mom started treating her like a business investment after that. Every family resource got redirected toward building Kelsey's platform because that's where the real money was supposedly hiding just around the corner. Right after the next viral video, any day now. The problem with Kelsey's content is it requires constant funding. New clothes for outfit videos, ring lights and tripods and editing software subscriptions, coffee shop backgrounds for aesthetic value at $5 per latte she doesn't drink, gas money to drive to photogenic locations. It all adds up fast, and none of it generates actual revenue unless you have millions of followers and major brand deals, which she doesn't. The creep started small and polite. Kelsey needed a ride to a collaboration meeting across town. Could she borrow the Mercedes just for the afternoon? She needed to look professional for a brand pitch. Could she take it for the weekend? Mom needed the business debit card to run some ads that would help everyone. Could I share my login so she could support my marketing? I said yes because saying no in my family feels like slamming a door during a funeral. Everyone hears it. Everyone gets offended. Everyone makes it about you being difficult instead of them being unreasonable. Then came the loans. Mom called one afternoon while I was sealing a batch of snowflake ornaments with glossy topcoat, hands covered in the stuff, phone wedged between my shoulder and ear. That sugar voice she uses when she wants something, the one that's higher pitched and softer than her normal tone. Honey, your father's hours got cut this month. Could you front the mortgage payment just until the tax return comes in? $1,800 plus $40 wire transfer fee. I did it without questioning because that's what family does, right? Help each other out during rough patches. Sent the money that same afternoon from my business account. Watched my carefully saved buffer money disappear in one transaction. The tax return that was supposedly coming never materialized. Turned out Dad's hours hadn't been cut. They'd been the same all year. The mortgage payment was short because they'd used that money to pay for Kelsey's new camera equipment. But the next month there was another emergency. Utilities this time. $300 or the power gets shut off. Then it was car insurance. Then it was a medical bill. Always just this once, always just until they stabilize, always with the promise that we'd square up when Kelsey's next big brand deal came through and she could contribute to family expenses. The brand deal never hit, but they kept reminding me we were a team. We were building something together. I was the entrepreneur with tax write-offs so I could make it work on paper. Meanwhile, specific charges started appearing on my business card that I absolutely did not authorize. She posted mirror selfies with my baby, making it look like the car came from her success instead of Grandpa's generosity. When I needed it for a craft market across town, she said she already had shoots scheduled. "You work in a garage," she said. Not mean, just matter of fact, like announcing it might rain. "I have client meetings. Just take an Uber. It's a business expense." So I started taking Ubers to market load-ins, holding boxes in the trunks of drivers who looked at me like I was building a nest in their back seat. I told myself not to be petty. I poured the resentment into holly leaves and clean paint lines. I promised myself Christmas would fix everything. Sales would spike, the numbers would speak for themselves, and I could finally afford to set some boundaries without feeling guilty. Except the charges kept hitting my card. Promoted post packages, influencer boost services, analytics tools. My business card was linked to a family marketing account Kelsey had set up. When I confronted her, she blinked at me like I was speaking another language. "We're growing the brand together," she said, showing me a spreadsheet with projected returns that somehow never actually returned. "Your ornament content performs better when it's part of my overall aesthetic. We're building family equity." Family equity. That was Mom's phrase. Translation: what's yours is ours, but what's ours stays ours. The week everything snapped started normal enough. I was prepping for a holiday market, loading sample boxes, when I realized I was completely out of transportation options. The Mercedes had been at Kelsey's for 3 weeks straight. Every time I asked about it, I got vague responses about important meetings and brand obligations. I called an Uber to get to Grandpa's house for Saturday dinner. Showed up with my arms full of sample boxes and glitter still in my hair from a batch of ornaments that shed like nervous cats. Grandpa opened the door in his reading glasses and cardigan, took one look at me standing there on his porch, and his face did this thing. "Son, why'd you show up in an Uber? Where's that Mercedes C63 we bought you for your birthday?" I froze. The front door was half open, and through it I could see Mom in the dining room. She'd heard the question. I saw her straighten up, that practiced smile already forming. Before I could formulate an answer that wouldn't start World War III, she stepped into view. "Oh, that belongs to his sister now," Mom said, bright and casual, like announcing the weather. "You know how hard Kelsey works. Colin barely drives. He just paints little ornaments all day." She made this soft, dismissive sound, like my entire business was adorable and inconsequential. My uncle stopped chewing whatever he'd been eating. The old clock in the hallway got very loud. Grandpa went completely still. He looked at Mom, then at me, then back at Mom. Like he was reading labels on products he didn't remember buying and didn't understand why they were in his cart. "Belongs to who?" he asked. His voice was level, but something underneath it made my spine straighten. "Kelsey," Mom repeated, like maybe he hadn't heard. "Colin hardly uses it, and you know she has meetings constantly. It just makes sense logistically." "Mom," I said, but my voice did this thin, embarrassing thing where it came out smaller than I meant. Kelsey poked her head around the corner, phone in hand, that ring light reflection in her eyes. "It's just practical," she said. "I can't show up to brand partnerships in an old Honda. Image matters in my industry." Grandpa rubbed his jaw once, the way he does when he's calculating something. He put his hand on my shoulder, gentle but firm. "Come on in, son." He led me to the dining room table and gestured for me to sit. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just folded his napkin with that same careful precision he uses for everything, and in that same polite tone he uses with contractors who try to overcharge him. He started asking questions. "When did the car start belonging to your sister?" "Dad," Mom said, warning in her voice. "Let the boy speak," Grandpa said. Then he looked at me. "Colin?" The truth crouched in my chest like something with claws. I could feel it scratching to get out. "I don't know," I said. "It just happened." And that was the worst part. It had just happened. The same way everything else had just happened. The loans that never got repaid. The business charges on my card. The constant expectation that I'd say yes because that's what good family members do. People romanticize family business. They picture warm kitchens and everyone pitching in together, laughing while they work toward a common goal. In my family, business is the word you use when you need someone to swipe their card without asking questions. I started the ornament thing at 19 because I liked making things. By 21, I had regular customers who came back every year. Teachers ordering classroom sets, Couples wanting replicas of their first apartment, parents getting memorial ornaments for relatives who'd passed, real people paying real money for careful work. The Mercedes was supposed to make the logistics easier, hauling market equipment, delivering custom orders, picking up supplies from the art store across town. Grandpa understood that. He'd spent 50 years as an electrician, schlepping tools to job sites, understanding that reliable transportation wasn't luxury, it was infrastructure. Mom had smiled for the photo that day at the dealership, not because she was happy I had reliable transportation, but because she was already calculating how to leverage it for Kelsey's benefit. We keep things balanced, Mom always said. Family equity. Balanced in our house meant if Colin has a tool, it becomes community property. If Kelsey has a platform, it becomes family identity. Everything I earned somehow became raw material for Kelsey's content creation and Mom's project management. The creep accelerated after I got the car. Kelsey needed it for a brand event. Just the weekend. Except the weekend turned into a week. The week turned into indefinite. When I asked to use my own car for a market setup, Kelsey acted like I was being unreasonable. I already have 3 shoots scheduled this week, she said, not looking up from her phone. You can Uber. It's like $30. $30 times 3 markets a month times 12 months is over $1,000 in transportation. I was suddenly covering because my sister needed my car to take selfies in parking lots. When I tried to bring it up with Mom, she sighed like I was exhausting her. Why are you being difficult about this? We're building something together. Kelsey's platform helps your business too. Cross-promotion, synergy. That's a word people use when they want you to give them things without calling it what it is. The charges started showing up a few months later. Small at first. $49 for a social media scheduling tool. $87 for a photography backdrop. Then bigger. $200 for a promoted post package. $350 for an influencer analytics service. They all hit my business card, which was linked to a marketing account Kelsey had set up. When I confronted her, she showed me a spreadsheet that looked professional and meant nothing. Projected reach, estimated conversions, anticipated brand deals, all numbers that existed in the future, justifying money I was spending in the present. We're investing in growth, she said. Your ornament content performs 80% better when it's integrated into my lifestyle feed. The algorithm loves cohesive branding. I wanted to ask whose ornament content it was if I was the one making them and paying for the promotion. I wanted to point out that my business existed before her platform and would exist after. But I didn't say any of that because saying it felt mean, and I'd learned that being mean was worse than being exploited. So I kept taking Ubers to markets, kept watching charges hit my card, kept telling myself that family meant sacrifice, and I was just being selfish for wanting boundaries. Grandpa's first question opened the dam. When did the car start belonging to your sister? Then came the next one. Has the car been registered in her name? Insurance transferred? Dad, these are just details, Mom tried. Details matter, Grandpa said. He was still using that contractor voice, calm, factual, relentless. The car was a gift to Colin for his work. If it's being used by someone else, I want to understand the arrangement. There was no arrangement. That became clear fast. Kelsey had just started using it. Mom had just started referring to it as Kelsey's car. Dad had just started going along with it because that's what he does. Goes along. How much are you paying your brother for the use of his car? Grandpa asked Kelsey directly. She blinked. I'm not paying him. It's family. So you're using his work vehicle, not compensating him. And he's covering transportation costs with his own money so you can have his car. Is that accurate? When he laid it out like that, with no emotional padding, it sounded exactly like what it was. Theft with better PR. Grandpa, it's not that simple, Kelsey started. It's extremely simple, he replied. You're using something that doesn't belong to you without permission or compensation. That's the definition. Mom tried to redirect. We're all contributing to Kelsey's platform. It benefits everyone. How has it benefited Colin? Grandpa asked. Silence. The kind that gets heavy. He gets cross-promotion, Mom said weakly. Show me the numbers, Grandpa said. Show me how Colin's business has grown from this cross-promotion you keep mentioning. More silence. Because there were no numbers. My business had grown despite the arrangement, not because of it. My customer base came from craft markets and word of mouth and people finding my work through local searches, not from Kelsey's followers who were interested in smoothie recipes and closet organization. Grandpa turned to me. How much have you loaned your parents? I did the math in my head. $1,800 for mortgage. Adjust this for utilities. $500 here, $300 there. Maybe $6,000? Over the past year and a half. Repayment plan? They said when things stabilize. Grandpa nodded slowly. And the charges on your business card. The marketing expenses for Kelsey's platform. How much total? I'd been tracking it. Not obsessively, just aware. Around 4,000. Did you authorize these charges? Not specifically, but Kelsey had access to the account for, family marketing. Family marketing for a business that isn't hers. Grandpa leaned back. So to summarize, you loaned your parents 6,000 with no repayment timeline. Your sister has spent 4,000 of your money on her projects without explicit permission. She's using your car full-time without compensation. You're covering transportation costs to do your actual work. And everyone's telling you this is normal family behavior. When you list it out like that, it sounds completely insane. But it had happened so gradually, one small concession at a time, that I'd convinced myself it was just how families worked. Dad, you're making this sound worse than it is, Mom said. I'm making it sound exactly like it is, Grandpa replied. Colin's been subsidizing everyone's lifestyle while being told he's not contributing enough. He makes ornaments, Mom said, and there was edge in her voice now. Kelsey's building a real business, a brand, something with scale. Colin runs a profitable craft business with actual paying customers, Grandpa corrected. Kelsey runs a social media account that requires constant cash infusion from other people. One of these is a business. The other is an expensive hobby. Kelsey's face went red. My followers are an asset. Brands pay for access to my audience. How much have they paid? She hesitated. I've done several partnership deals. Dollar amount. This year, net after expenses. I don't have the exact numbers right now. Rough estimate. Kelsey looked at Mom. Mom looked at Dad. Nobody said a number, which meant the number was either zero or embarrassingly small compared to the money they'd been spending to build this asset. Colin, Grandpa said, what did your business net last year? I didn't want to say it. Felt like bragging or setting myself up for more extraction. But Grandpa was looking at me with this expression that said, the truth mattered here. 42,000, after expenses and before taxes. The room got quiet again. Kelsey made this small sound. Mom's jaw tightened. 42,000 was more than my dad made at his job. It was definitely more than Kelsey's platform had ever generated in actual income. And yet you're funding marketing for her account while taking Ubers to your own work events? Grandpa observed. While she drives the car I bought for your business. It's more complicated than that, Dad said. First time he'd spoken. He was doing that thing where he stares at his plate like the grout patterns hold answers. Actually, it's not, Grandpa said. It's very simple. Colin's been exploited by people who should be supporting him. And you've all gotten comfortable with it because he kept saying yes. I sat there feeling like my skin was too tight. Everything he was saying was true, but hearing it out loud made me want to crawl under the table. What do you want us to do? Mom asked. Kelsey needs the car. Colin can Uber. It works. It works for everyone except Colin, Grandpa said. Here's what's going to happen. The car goes back to Colin today. He drives it home tonight. If Kelsey needs a vehicle, she can buy one or rent one or figure out transportation like every other working person. That's not fair, Kelsey said. I have meetings scheduled, brand calls. I can't show up in an old Honda. Then buy a car that matches your image, Grandpa said, with money from your brand deals. Dad, be reasonable, Mom tried. Kelsey can't afford that right now. Why is that Colin's problem? Grandpa asked. Simple question. No good answer. We're family, Mom said. The ultimate trump card. Family should be the last place you encounter theft, Grandpa replied. Colin's been family this whole time, and nobody's treated his needs as legitimate. That stops today. He pulled out a folder I hadn't noticed him carrying. Inside were bank statements, printouts, documents I didn't recognize. He'd been preparing for this conversation, had evidence ready. This wasn't spontaneous Grandpa being protective. This was a planned intervention. I've reassigned a small trust I set aside years ago, Grandpa said. Originally meant for family emergencies. After watching how emergencies have been defined in this house, I've decided Colin needs protection from his own family. Mom's face went white. Dad, what are you doing? I'm making sure Colin has the resources to set boundaries. The trust is enough for him to lease a proper workshop space and separate his finances completely from family access. It's not a fortune. It's a foundation. You're rewarding his selfishness, Mom said, her voice going sharp. I'm rewarding his work, Grandpa corrected, and protecting him from people who've been treating him like an ATM. I sat there trying to process what was happening. A trust. Money specifically designated to help me separate from the family financial ecosystem that had been bleeding me dry. How much? Dad asked quietly. Enough, Grandpa said. The details are between Colin and me. What matters is, He'll be able to support himself without being guilted into supporting everyone else first. This is going to destroy this family, Mom said. She wasn't yelling. Her voice was shaking. This family's been destroying Colin for years, Grandpa replied. You've just been benefiting from it. So you called it love. The silence after that was different, heavier, like the air before a storm, except the storm had already passed, and we were standing in the aftermath. Grandpa slid the car keys across the table to me. These stay with you. You want to lend the car to someone? That's your choice. But it's a choice, not an assumption. I picked up the keys. They felt heavier than they should have. And the money? Grandpa asked. The $6,000 in loans and $4,000 in charges? That's between us, Mom said quickly. We'll work it out as a family. No, I said. First time I'd really spoken since Grandpa started asking questions. I want a repayment plan in writing. $100 a month until the $6,000 is covered. I'm not fronting anything else. And Kelsey pays back the $4,000 in marketing charges. Same terms. Colin, be reasonable, Mom started. Those are extremely reasonable terms, Grandpa said. Banks would charge interest. He's not. Fine, Kelsey said suddenly. Whatever. I'll pay it back. She was staring at her phone, thumb moving fast, probably already texting someone about this family disaster, turning it into content about toxic relatives. In writing, I repeated. Signed. I want documentation. You don't trust your own family? Dad asked. He sounded hurt. No, I said. Simple. True. I don't. Not with money. That hurt him. I could see it on his face. But it needed to be said. Trust isn't something you demand. It's something you earn. And they'd been making withdrawals for years, without deposits. Anything else? Grandpa asked me. Yeah, I said. My business is mine. No more access to accounts. No more loans without clear terms. No more assuming I'll say yes because we're family. If someone needs help, I'll decide if I can give it. And the answer might be no. You're being cruel, Mom said. She looked like she might cry. I'm being clear, I corrected. There's a difference. The dinner broke up after that. Nobody ate. Kelsey left first, dramatic exit with her phone in hand. Mom and Dad stayed, trying different angles. The guilt trip about raising me. The practical argument about family supporting family. The emotional appeal about Mom's anxiety. I kept saying no. It got easier each time. Grandpa walked me out to the Mercedes. My Mercedes. Handed me the folder with the trust documents and account information. This isn't going to be easy, he said. They're going to push back hard. They'll try guilt. They'll try emergencies. They'll tell other family members you're being unreasonable. I know. You stay firm anyway. You understand me? Your worth isn't measured by how much you're willing to give away. Yes, sir. And if you need help holding the line, you call me. Anytime. I drove home in the Mercedes for the first time in 3 months. It felt strange and unfamiliar, like I was relearning how to operate something that should have been second nature. The seat was adjusted wrong for my height. The mirrors were all positioned for Kelsey. There were hairpins in the cup holder, and her phone charger still plugged into the dashboard. Empty coffee cups in the back seat. Receipts from places I'd never been. Evidence of 3 months of someone else living in my car like it was theirs. I spent that evening in my garage methodically reclaiming my space. Changed every password on every account Kelsey had access to. Business banking, email, cloud storage, social media, even my phone unlock code. Removed her from my business credit card entirely, called the company, and had them issue me a new card with a different number just to be absolutely certain no old saved payment information could slip through. Set up a completely separate checking account at a different bank across town, one my family didn't even know existed. Transferred my business income there, changed all my automatic payments and direct deposits. Created a financial firewall between my life and their constant requests. Mom called twice that night. I watched the phone buzz on my workbench and didn't pick up. She left voicemails. The first one was angry, voice tight and sharp, about me embarrassing the family at Grandpa's house and making them look bad in front of extended family who'd be hearing about this drama soon enough. The second voicemail was sad, that wounded tone she uses when anger doesn't work, about me choosing money over relationships and not understanding what family really means. Both were pure manipulation. Different tactics, same goal. Make me feel guilty enough to cave. I deleted them without responding. Felt good to just press that delete button and watch them disappear. Kelsey texted, "Hope you're happy destroying everything." I replied, "I'm happy protecting myself." She didn't respond after that. The next week, I signed a lease on a corner unit with big windows that actually opened and real workshop space. 200 square feet, properly ventilated with actual HVAC instead of a box fan, room for multiple workbenches, and proper storage shelving. The trust covered first and last month plus security deposit without me having to drain my business account. I was out of the cramped garage where I'd been working, hunched over for years, and into a real legitimate shop that had a proper address and everything. The space had good bones. Concrete floors I could actually spill paint on without worrying. Electrical outlets every 6 feet. A small office area separated from the work zone. Big storefront windows where I could display finished pieces to catch the attention of people walking by. A proper bathroom instead of having to walk down the block to the gas station. It felt professional in a way my garage setup never could. I spent 3 days moving equipment and setting everything up right. Organized my paint supplies by color family. Built proper drying racks that could hold 100 ornaments at once. Installed bright task lighting over each workbench. Set up a small customer consultation area with a table and chairs where people could sit and discuss custom orders instead of standing awkwardly in a cramped garage while I tried to show them samples. I hired a high school kid named Riley to help with afternoon orders. Riley was better at organization than I'd ever be, labeled things with this precise handwriting that made everything look professional, and told me when my display arrangement looked dead and boring, which apparently was bad for retail business. We laughed a lot while we worked. It was the first time in years I'd actually enjoyed having someone in my workspace, instead of feeling like I had to guard my supplies and watch my accounts. Mom kept trying different strategies. Could I loan Kelsey some blank ornaments so she could start her own line? No. Could she borrow the Mercedes just for a day so Dad could check something mechanical? No, and the car stays locked in my shop parking lot with a steering wheel lock just in case. You're being dramatic, Mom said. Okay, I replied. And that was the whole conversation. A local paper did a tiny feature on holiday makers. They photographed my hands because my nails are permanently stained silver, and the reporter thought it was atmospheric. The caption read, "Small shop, steady hands." Grandpa clipped the article and stuck it on his fridge with a magnet shaped like a cactus. He pointed to it every time I visited, like it might change size if he believed hard enough. Christmas Eve. I closed the shop early and took a box of seconds to the senior center. Ornaments with paint smudges and crooked details, asymmetrical snowflakes, and names where my hand had shaken slightly. Ones I'd never sell, but were still beautiful and meaningful to someone who wasn't judging them against perfection. The activities director, a woman named Patricia, who'd been running that place for 20 years, actually teared up when I brought them in. Said these were perfect to them, that the residents would love hanging them on the community tree and taking a few back to their rooms. On the drive home, I passed my parents' house, the one I'd grown up in with the same porch light and the same mailbox. Through the living room window, I could see Kelsey filming by the Christmas tree, smile wide and perfect, performing joy for an audience of strangers who double tap and scroll on to the next thing. She was probably doing a "what I got for Christmas" video, even though Christmas was still hours away. For a second, I felt this ache for a version of us that never existed, the family we could have been if anyone had valued honesty over performance. Then I kept driving, hands steady on the wheel of my Mercedes. I had hot chocolate to make, and a shop to open in the morning, and a life that was finally, actually mine. January was quiet. Quiet is how you hear yourself think. I used the trust money to install a proper spray booth and upgrade my equipment. Business picked up from the holiday exposure. Corporate orders for client gifts. A wedding planner who wanted 200 custom ornaments for a spring event. I was making real money. Enough to not just survive, but actually build something sustainable. And I was sleeping better than I had in years. Dad came into the shop twice that month, bought ornaments with cash, stood at the counter like a man on uncertain ground. "Your grandpa says you did right," he said during the second visit. "He says you did what you had to do." If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.